I never played Pokemon Legends Arceus, so today we're going to be completing it for the first time, but there's a twist. We can only use shiny Pokemon. I had a lot of fun at some points, and I had a lot of, well, let's just say not fun at others. Let's jump in and see how it went. We start in what seems to be some sort of strange dream where grabbing our phone is our top priority for some reason. And we are greeted by Arceus, a literal, deity. We wake up from this dream on a strange beach, greeted by 3 Pokemon and a worried professor. I tried to dislike this professor, but he's actually a pretty good character. We learn how to catch Pokemon in this strange new world and show the professor our new phone, which Arceus upgraded. From there, he takes us to Jubilife Village, which bases the Galaxy Expedition Team, a guild-like group created to study Pokemon. Although, not everyone here is so friendly. A lot of people struggle trusting a strange kid who fell from the sky. We met Akari, at least that's how Google says her name is pronounced, as well as the captain of the Survey Corps. We are tasked with completing a trial to join the Survey Corps by catching 3 different Pokemon, which apparently is pretty hard for people around here. We're given a partner Pokemon to choose from, which we chose Cyndaquil, of course, and set off to the Obsidian Fieldlands. Alright, let's skip ahead some. Obviously, we completed the trial and proved our worth, so we got to meet the commander of the team. We completed a couple quests, messed around with a bit of crafting, but it's time to start shiny hunting. In this game, the Pokédex has multiple tasks to complete. Once 10 or more tasks are completed, the odds of a shiny go from 1 in 4,096 to 1 in 2,048. So we began clearing challenges, catching and defeating every Pokemon we could find. After about 3.5 hours of story and running around aimlessly, we found our first shiny. A little purple Wurmple was hiding behind a rock from me. As far as shiny only playthroughs I've done so far go, this was arguably the fastest first shiny. I'd say the average was about 4 hours, but I feel like this game has a bit more story to push through in the beginning. We caught our pretty worm and went back to the village to receive our first star. The stars are your rank in the team and also function as the gym badges, allowing you to control higher level Pokemon. With this, we are one step closer to becoming Hokage. We had a classic rival battle, but a level 6 Wurmple versus a level 9 Pikachu wasn't exactly an even matchup. So after the fight, we figured out how to actually evolve Pokemon, and upgraded Wurmple to Beautifly. In order to continue to the next area of the Fieldlands, we had to prove ourselves in a battle against Mai and her Munchlax, which, if I'm being honest, I shouldn't have won. Munchlax's new rollout, which should have ripped through Beautifly, but with some lucky dodges, we prevailed. Oh, Beautifly, you're goated. I don't deserve to win this. You're goated, Beautifly. Professor Laventon showed up to take a picture of me like a proud dad, and we were introduced to our first alpha Pokemon, a Kricketune causing quite a ruckus. After squashing the bug with a few air cutters, the Great Daddy Stantler showed himself to me. Whoa, pause. He ended up taking a liking to me, and soon he will let me ride him. Let's just move on. Back in the village, we meet the leaders of 2 rival clans that live in the area, the Diamond and Pearl clans, each worshipping their respective version of Almighty Sinnoh and bickering about it non-stop. This was when the game started to play with my emotions. I found a second shiny Wurmple less than 3 hours after the first. I told myself I wouldn't use any duplicate team members during this playthrough, so this one will have to remain a Cascoon. Time to take our Silcoon, not Cascoon, into battle. Matched against Liam's Goomy. Liam is the defender of the first Frenzied Noble, which are Pokemon believed to be descendants of Almighty Sinnoh itself. At this point, I'm slightly overleveled due to shiny hunting, but I do eventually stop overleveling. To my knowledge, there isn't a way to stop a Pokemon from leveling, and if I found a shiny without my shiny Pokemon, I would only be able to catch it outside of combat, which is too risky for me. Now it's time for things to look up. I almost missed this little shiny Zubat, although looking back, the sound was extremely obvious. Flying, Bug, Poison was looking like a theme for this team, but honestly, I didn't care because Crobat is such a good Pokemon. Cleaver would be the first of the nobles needing their frenzies quelled, and honestly, I was not prepared for how cool but hard it would be. I struggled a bit dodging the attacks, but once I got the hang of it, smooth sailing. I didn't get the footage of inside the actual battle, but I will have it for some of the other nobles. With Cleaver defeated, it was time to rank up again and move on to the Crimson Mireland. And this swamp has a lot of cool Pokemon I'd love to have on my team. We begin catching and completing challenges to up our odds, and are able to evolve Zubat into a beautiful Crobat. Shortly after that, our fourth-ish teammate appeared. Geodude showed off the shiny spawn animation right in front of me, which, funny enough, was just a couple of days after I found a random encounter Geodude on Pokemon Scarlet. I'm not entirely sure why Pokemon likes to make every shiny rock yellow. It's not exactly my favorite shiny, but I do enjoy a Golem. No time to relax though, because a group of bandits attempt to use the power of sisterhood to defend their stolen loot. I won't lie, this Toxicroak had me shaking in my boots for a second, but I forgot that I'm him, so I had nothing to worry about. We were able to return the stolen tablet and get a quick lesson in the language of unknown, and then discovered that if you fall into water, you just die. Somehow, the player character is even worse at swimming than me, and I've almost drowned at least twice that I can remember. Next up was proving our might to another worshipped Pokemon, Ursaluna. Once we defeat this grumpy bear, we can take on the second Frenzied Noble, one that I actually did get footage of me struggling through the trial. So we set up Poison with Silcoon and then just used Crobat to absolutely pulverize this thing. Wasn't really much of a battle, more just me desecrating a semi-holy creature in front of its protector. It's sped up obviously, but I want to show the whole trial because honestly, I think it's a cool little idea to have in Pokemon games. Plus, it's funny to watch my little guy run around all crazy, but I did cut out the actual battles in between. Spoiler, Crobat OP. But after a bunch of dodges and throwing bombs, we calmed the frenzied Lilligant. After Lilligant, we head to the Cobalt Coastlands, the next area in this game, which, once again, has some cool Pokemon I'd like to add to my team. And, once again, just like the last area, I don't get the one I want. I get another shiny that I have in other games. But, at least our Geodude evolves here. All my shinies up until this point have taken only about 2 to 4 hours each. This was the first one to actually make me work for it a bit. I want to say it only took about 5 or 6 hours either way before this red Skorupi showed its generationally shiny face. I think this will be like my 3rd or 4th shiny Drapion. We caught a Dusclops to cook up some food, because apparently a Dusclops using Dark Pulse tastes good, and we met the next rideable mount, Basculegion. Riding over the water was actually pretty cool, although trying to catch Pokemon was a bit difficult at first. Then we had to run the Gauntlet of the Bandit Sisters, which was actually pretty tough compared to every other battle before this. They had some decent Pokemon, and it was just one after the other. Starting off with an Abomasnow versus my Beautifly, we both exchanged strong style moves, but her Ice Shard tore straight through Beautifly. Crobat was next up just to outspeed and finish off Abomasnow, but this is where I realized it wasn't going to be that easy. The second sister joined in with her Toxicroak, but we've already seen how this battle pans out. The last of the 3 brought a Rhydon and a Gengar, so this is where I get a little nervous. Silcoon gets obliterated before I can even pick a move, so I send out Graveler, as I'm pretty sure everyone else would just be one-shot. I also forgot to get my Skorupi out of the pasture, so I'm down 1 team member, even if it wouldn't have been very helpful at all. Last up is Crobat vs Gengar, which ended with 1 strong style bite. Well, great. I saved the day and defeated the bandits. Except it's never that easy. Growlithe evolves into Arcanine, and in the usual stroke of genuinely just bad luck, this puppy gets struck by some divine lightning and frenzies. From friend to foe, after saving this Growlithe, he turns against me in the form of an Arcanine. And when I tell you, I don't know if I should have succeeded here, I mean it. Me and the Interim Noble traded knockouts with each other, but my character has plot armor, so it worked out. After returning to the village, we meet one of the most obnoxious characters in the game, Melly. But then we see a familiar face. I'm still a little confused as to why and how he's here, but either way, on to the next area. Here, Ingo takes us to meet Sneasler, who we can use to climb up walls and mountains, and we evolve our Skorupi into a Drapion, so we can actually use our newest team member. Although Drapion wasn't our newest for long, because a couple hours later we found our last team member, a Luxio, which I was surprised took us this long because I expected a Shinx early game. After we caught Luxio, we found a special item laying around on the ground in a space-time distortion, and we were able to evolve our Graveler. I wasn't looking for this item, nor did I even know it existed, but I'm not complaining. I'll take a Golem over a Graveler any day of the week. In order to face the next noble, I had to prove my strength against Melly, the smug and obnoxious warden. After crushing his skunk tank and his little nuisance Pokemon, I walked over to him before the battle was even over, because it was that easy, and he didn't particularly like that. Regardless of our beef, I was able to attempt to quell the frenzied Electrode, which apparently resides in a tree, which was pretty unexpected. Doing these fights is actually a lot tougher than I thought they'd be. Electrode almost gave me the hands, and he doesn't even have hands. But after running away and dodging for 5 minutes, we were finally able to quell the frenzied noble. The facial expressions in this game kill me. But we discover that our big strong captain is terrified of a Wurmple, which is fitting that our first 2 shinies were also Wurmple. And with that, we're on to the next area, the Alabaster Iceland. Here, I plan on replacing Silcoon, which has pretty much just been a placeholder on our team since the Fieldlands. An Ice-type Pokemon would be a great addition to the team, and there are plenty of cool options here. I'd love a Mamoswine, an Abomasnow, or even a Glalie. But first, we evolve our Luxray and return for another rank up, which, if you haven't noticed, I'm not showing every rank up, just checking in every once in a while. After hours of catching and defeating Pokemon, we find a new shiny, an Apom. Admittedly, I was not very happy with this find. As stated, I wanted pretty much any of the Ice-type Pokemon in this area, but Ambipom does actually become a really solid team member. After jumping through all the hoops and chasing this warden across the icy tundra, we finally get to begin the challenge for Braviary. The puzzle maze really showed me how bad my memory and attention to detail is. You have to press the buttons in the order the statues face each other, which by the end is like 8 inputs long. I would recommend having a notepad or something to write the order in which the statues are facing, unless you just have a much better memory than I do. Having a Steel-type move on Ambipom was a really nice surprise, even if she did get absolutely bullied by this Rhyperior. That one attack was when I realized having an Ambipom might not be so bad after all, and trust me, she'll prove herself soon. But after defeating the warden, Sabby, we continued to the top of the temple and met Braviary, unlocking the ability to fly. Well, more like to jump up and glide, but honestly, it's still super nice to have. If you've made it this far into the video, welcome to the beginning of the end. This point is where literally everything goes wrong. Not only do I struggle with quelling the noble Avalugg, actually losing the first and second time due to just getting impatient, but I also screw up the audio. Turns out that even when I'm recording on the Switch, if I play music through my computer, it overlaps the audio. Good to know. Now, both of these things are already enough, but that's not it. Here's where the story takes a dark turn. After returning to the village, all nobles quelled, the rift I fell through to get to this land changes the sky, and fear grips the village. In usual human fashion, they look for a scapegoat, someone they can blame the change on, and who better than the child that fell through the rift and was able to quell all the nobles? Our character is banished from the village and excommunicated by all. Well, almost all. A wandering merchant finds you and brings you to a mysterious woman, Mistress Cogita. Here we learn of the legend of the lake Pokemon and the red chain, the only item that might be capable of sealing the rift. The leaders of the clans come to help, but you can only pick one, which I assume also decides which legendary you will meet. I choose Adaman, even though I do prefer Palkia. The Pearl Clan leader just never quite resonated with me. And with that, we were off to find the Lake Trio. Each of these guardians appeared and had a sort of trial, rewarding us with pieces we could use to forge the chain. This was all pretty easy, but very tedious. Upon completion of all three, the trio appeared in some ruins and rewarded us with the red chain. Now that we are prepared to seal the rift, we find out that the commander of the village has led an attack on it, and he, on the other hand, is not prepared at all. We chase after them and find out that Old Man Benny, the man who prepares the potato mochi the village loves, is actually a frickin' ninja, and he tries to stop us. This was such a good plot twist that I just didn't see coming at all, and honestly, it was a pretty fun battle. The commander allows fate to decide who will approach the rift, and challenges me to a battle. This was a good battle. My levels had evened out, and it was just a fair fight. Drapion took down Braviary easily before Snorlax dropped him. I used Beautifly to get the poison and deal a good chunk of damage before sending out Crobat to finish the job. Next was a Clefable that didn't really stand a chance against Crobat. After that quick takedown, it was down to Golem, so I put him to sleep, forgetting that sleeping doesn't really seem to do anything in this game, and I get taken down. I finished strong with my own Golem, which obviously had the shiny buff, so can't lose. Now here's where things get really crazy. The rift opens and out walks Almighty Sinnoh themselves, Dialga. The Diamond Clan's god is here in the flesh, if Dialga has flesh. We used the red chain, but not even that is strong enough to hold Dialga. So instead, I catch it in a man-made Ultra Ball. No rest for the wicked, because the Pearl Clan's Almighty Sinnoh was next to walk out of the rift, Palkia. And with the red chain broken, we had no chance to defeat him, so we ran away and collected a rare stone called Origin Ore to create a new kind of Pokeball capable of catching such a beast. And back we go to fight Palkia. Call him a shiny Graveler because bro used a self-destruct so powerful it blew up the entire temple as well as his arms. I don't know why I didn't see it coming that we would fight Palkia the same way we fought the Nobles, but after being caught off guard, we figured out his attack pattern, and honestly, compared to some of these other battles, this one wasn't too bad. We throw the Origin Ball like our lives depend on it, which they probably do, and knowing this game, I fully expected it not to work, but it actually does. Once Palkia is captured, the sky returns to normal and all is good in the world. Except, I hold a grudge and I remember every villager who had something to say about me. Good luck completing those quests on your own, hoes. And that concludes the game. We did catch 2 more shinies post-game, which will be at the end, but that's all we got for you today. If you enjoyed, be sure to leave a like, comment, and subscribe. I always like doing shiny only videos, and I think we're gonna head to Pokemon Let's Go next, since I never played those games either. With that, have fun, stay safe out there, recruits. Peace.